it's not the easiest topic for me to talk about. I just didn't know what to do. I was really going downhill at this point. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I apologise that I've sort of interrupted the Disney vlogs for this video, but it does make sense in terms of time scale, and what I'm about to talk about happened just at the end or after I filmed the last bit of footage from the vlog last week. So it makes sense in terms of why I'm doing it this way, and then obviously next week we'll go back to Disneyland footage. Now I am doing odd whether or not to film this video, purely because it's not the nicest thing to talk about. This isn't going to be the happiest video you've ever seen, but it is real life, and I think it's important that it is something that's talked about, if nothing else, because if there's someone else in my position and they've never seen someone talk about it before, like for me, I've never seen anyone talk about this before, and I felt very isolated in it happening. And I realised that I'm probably not the only one this happens to, because there are millions of people that go to Disneyland every day, and I can't have been the only person that this has ever happened to. But I'm the only person that I know that has talked about it within who I follow and videos that I watch, so that is why I'm talking about it. If I'm not looking directly at the camera, it's because it's not the easiest topic for me to talk about. I'm in a way embarrassed about it. Not embarrassed, that's not the right word, I shouldn't be embarrassed about it. But yeah, if I'm not looking directly at the camera, I am just looking out the window, trying to get my words together and trying to say things in the right way. Also, I would just like to state this isn't a sympathy video, this isn't a feel sorry for me video. This is just me putting out a video talking about something that happened whilst I was in Disneyland that most people would probably choose not to talk about, but it is real life and these things happen. So I'm going to talk about it. And so basically, let's start at the end of last week's vlog. You all have seen me film clips of the parade. Yeah, if I can find the clip where this conversation happens behind the camera, I will insert it now.
You okay?
Struggling.
You'll be alright. Keep breathing.
The parade had just started further down, because it starts near the castle end, works its way around the castle, comes up through Main Street, and then goes around a little bit, around like a little gazebo type thing in the middle of Main Street, and then goes off into the exit. And we were stood facing the exit. We didn't actually realise at the time that we were stood there. We didn't know if we were at the beginning or the end. Turns out we were at the end, which was fine. And I was turning around to see them come up from the Main Street, because we could see above heads. And I was looking around because we could hear the music, and I was like sort of looking around at what I could see and things like that. And then all of a sudden I went really faint, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And obviously when I have one of those spells, so I should probably go back a bit further and tell you a bit more about my day-to-day life at the moment as it is, and explain that I have been having dizzy spells, as I call them, but they are basically the feeling of I'm gonna pass out quite often. And I also have this feeling where I'm not actually in my body. So the way I explain it is, if you are old enough to know and have been drunk and you get to the stage where you don't feel in control of your body, that's how I felt all the time. And then I have moments where I think I'm going to pass out. Now, I'd managed to control and contain this feeling from the whole time we had left in London to Paris, because bearing in mind this was still on the first day, and I managed to contain that feeling the whole way up until then. And I'm not going to lie to you, it affected my time in Disneyland. And don't get me wrong, I had the most amazing time, but I could have had a better time had I not felt so out of control of my body and so spaced out all the time. So that's a little backstory. I am currently playing with my meds because we think that that's potentially what is causing me to feel like this all the time. So hopefully these passing out spells and out of control of my body feelings will slowly reduce and get better again, because living like this wasn't right. And it was actually once I got back from Disneyland that I realised something wasn't right, and I've been living like this for way too long. So yeah, so that's a little backstory about these things anyway. So it wasn't out of the blue for me to have a moment where I think I'm going to pass out. But normally if I'm in these situations at home, I literally, doesn't matter where I am, doesn't matter where it happens, I have to physically stop what I'm doing, sit down and have a drink and just take a breather and just sit somewhere quiet where it's calm and go through the motion of it and until it almost goes. Now, bearing in mind I'm stood in the middle of the parade, it's about to come around to where we are. People are starting to build up more and more behind me, and so it's getting busier and busier. And basically I had this dizzy minute and there wasn't a lot I could do to control it. So of course then my anxiety flew straight up because I couldn't do my normal things to control it. So I didn't have a drink because that was something that we were going to get once we'd seen the parade. I didn't have a quiet space because we're in Disneyland, it's busy everywhere, the parade is coming, I'm right in the middle of it all, and I just didn't know what to do. I was in panic mode then. Brain went into panic mode, and I actually say behind the camera, and this is the clip that I was talking about, that Vicky asked me if I'm okay, because I say to her before I start filming, before it comes around, I say to her, I've gone really dizzy, I don't know what to do, to the point where I almost fall to the ground. And I said, I don't know what to do, I feel really dizzy. And she's like, just breathe, just breathe. And then I luckily had some Mentos, some Fruity Mentos in my bag, so I got them out and I literally ate the whole packet of Fruity Mentos, just chewing on them. My jaw was killing me, but it was the only thing I could do to somewhat settle that feeling. I thought, well, what do I do, what do I do? I was focusing on eating these Mentos and I was unbearably twitchy in my body because I was panicking, and I basically had a panic attack. Well, I almost had a panic attack there on that moment, but I managed to almost put a pause on it and like drag the whole thing out. And because I'm stood there thinking, there is literally nowhere for me to go. Vicky wants to watch the parade. I want to watch the parade, but I don't know if I can right now. So I actually start filming on my camera, and I think, right, I can hold the camera and make sure I get footage, and because at least then I can watch it back later and appreciate it and actually, you know, enjoy it looking back later. But if I don't film it, I'm going to miss it just stood here, and it gives me something to focus on. So for someone who was having a panic attack, I'm not being funny, the footage wasn't actually that bad. I was really going downhill at this point. And then anyway, the parade came to an end, and before I could do anything else, I found a little, I could see like on the side, on the pavement, because we were technically like in the road to watch the parade. So I saw on the pavement that there was like in between windows of shops that there was like this little curb bit. So I was like, right, I need to get in there out of the way so I can block all the people out, because I was then being hit on the head and shoved and pushed whilst this parade was going on, which I suppose in a way you should expect. It's still wrong, but you should expect when you go to these things. But of course that didn't help my anxiety, which was already skyrocketed. So we moved off to this bit, and I managed to perch down in this area and just get my breath back and just refocus my head. Bearing in mind my head is literally spinning, the whole place is spinning. We then realised that neither of us had eaten since we'd been on the train at 8 o'clock in the morning. We hadn't really drunk anything other than I had a Monster on the train, and that was about it. Oh, I got hot chocolate when we got there. Oh, I take that back. We did have a snack when we got to Starbucks when we got there. But we hadn't eaten a proper meal. We hadn't eaten anything substantial. Then, like I said, I hadn't drunk anything. I was going on about 3 hours sleep. My pain was high. And as you can imagine, my anxiety of just being in a new place and surrounded by new people, my anxiety was higher than normal anyway. So all of these factors, whether or not this situation would have happened if I had done all these things to try and prevent it, I don't know. It may have still happened, because they still happened to me. I was sat down having lunch the other day. I'd finished my lunch, I'd had a big drink, I was just sat relaxed, and I had one. So who knows whether or not I would have still had one. But that obviously those were factors that weren't helping. So me and Vicky decided, right, we need to go get some food. So I clung on to her arm, and we knew of somewhere that we wanted to get food from. So we walked all the way through the castle to this place that we wanted to get food for. It was shut. It only stays open for like lunchtime. So that was pretty gutting, because I sort of had the ability to get there, and I thought it'll be fine once I get there and then I can have something to eat. And then for it to be shut, we then went, right, what do we do next? Bearing in mind it's getting busy now, because people are starting to, a lot of people are having food now ready for the illuminations and lights and stuff to come on, because they were about an hour later. So we thought, right, what do we do? We managed to find, it was Casey's Corner it's called, and they were selling like hot dogs and stuff. So we managed to get there, but there was a really long wait. So Vicky perched me on the wall somewhere and went in and ordered our food. She did it on the app, but she then had to go and collect it. So she had to go and wait inside to collect it. So I waited on this wall outside. I then FaceTimed my parents, and at this point I go into complete meltdown. When I have a panic attack at home, chances are 9 times out of 10 I'm with my mum or Bertie, or I'm not far from my mum or Bertie, and they are my comfort. And I didn't have that there physically, and so I went into complete meltdown on the phone. I'm on FaceTime to them, and bearing in mind I'm on my own at this point, because Vicky's going in to get the food, and I was physically shaking. I couldn't see straight, and I couldn't even feel the floor on the ground, because I felt that out of sort. The only thing I thought I wanted at the time was for mum to be with me. As you can imagine, it was very traumatic for my parents as well as me. My mum was looking up flights, she was looking up train tickets, she was looking up any way for her to get to me. We were then looking at ways for me to go home, because I'm just crying on the phone. I just remember crying down the phone to my dad saying, it's too much for me, it's too overwhelming, I wasn't ready for this, I want to come home, I don't want to do this anymore, I just want to be at home, I wish I didn't come. And to do that, and to be that way, and to feel those things in the middle of Disneyland Paris, which is supposed to be the happiest place on earth, I felt really gutted that I was that way. because when I had, like, we've had this booked for, God, I think we booked it like last April, May. And so it's been coming for a long time, and I've been so excited for it. And then for my disability to stop that from being so wonderful, it was so hard. And I'm literally full on crying, tears, everything. And it was a weird feeling, like, because obviously I'm aware of everyone around me still as I'm crying down the phone to my parents, and you could see all the adults looking at me as if to say, well, what do we do in this situation? Do we comfort her? Do we ask if she's okay? Do we, like, because obviously they had no context as to what had happened or why I was crying, and you could see them thinking, like, the confusion, because it's not something you expect to see when you go to Disneyland Paris, an adult crying in the middle of Disneyland Paris. You don't expect to see that. And it's like, well, what do we do here? And then it seemed to take forever for Vicky to come out with the food. Like, it probably wasn't even that long, but it literally felt like a lifetime. And all I wanted was my mum, I wanted Bertie, I wanted to come home. I felt sick, I was then feeling sick. I thought I didn't even know how I was going to walk back to the place that we were staying because my legs were in so much pain. Like, there were so many factors that were making it worse. And we then managed to find a table, so I was actually sat at a table. I think I ate a few chicken nuggets, and that was about it. We got a big thing of Fanta, so I drank quite a bit of my drink. And then we decided we were meant to stay for the illuminations that night, and obviously I was in such a bad way, there was no way I could stay for the illuminations. So we then headed back to the place we were staying, and Vicky sort of talked me down. She was like, just think about what you're doing when you say you want to go home, like, think about everything when you've had a good sleep. So we got home, and we got back to the hotel room, and to me the hotel room felt safe, so I felt instantly more relaxed when I got back to the hotel room. And we talked about the differences between how big Hollywood Studios is compared to the main park, which was the only place that I'd been to that day. We'd only been to the main park, and bearing in mind the last time I went to Disneyland Paris I was like 3 or 4, so I really don't remember much of it. So to me, I just walked in there and thought, holy crap, it's overwhelming, there's a lot to do, it's massive, where do I even start, are we actually going to get it all done? Like, all these things going through my head. And then me and Vicky sat down with the maps and we looked it all over and talked everything through, and we came up with a plan for what we were going to do the next day. And I decided I wasn't going to go home because there wasn't an easy way for me to get home, first of all, and we come up with a plan when I felt calmer, when I was in the hotel room, of what we could do instead. So once I'd calmed down, I was then able to relook at things a little bit easier. We got up early the next day and we had a plan, and we did Hollywood Studios first, and that was much better. And that was the only big blip I had the whole time I was there. This Disneyland trip was a huge milestone for many reasons. Firstly, it's the first time I've been apart from my mum and Bertie in 2 years. I spend every day with them. If it's not Bertie, it's my mum, and to be fair, it's not either of them, it's my dad. And so to be away from my parents for the first time, and my dog for the first time in 2 years, was a huge deal. Let alone go abroad to a different country, let alone go to somewhere like Disneyland, which is not like exactly a relaxing holiday. It's going to be busy, it's going to be like, there's lots of things to do. But I am very proud of myself for going and getting past that and still having a really good time, because I did have a really good time, and I've got some amazing memories, some amazing photos, some amazing videos, and I will cherish them forever. Obviously, I won't lie to you, my whole experience was tainted by the fact that I felt out of sorts the whole time I was there, meaning my spaced out feeling, meaning I was on edge of dizziness all the time. I couldn't look up at things. There were certain places that I couldn't either go, or I needed to go quickly because they made me feel worse. Vicky, bless her, only did like, I think she only did one ride in the end, because so I don't like rides anyway, and the plan was never for me to go on rides particularly, but the plan was for Vicky to go on rides. I would sit there and wait for her, or I would do like the little rides with her. But that panic attack had shook me so much that, and I was so on edge the whole time, that I didn't want to push myself any further. So I chose not to potentially ruin the rest of my trip by taking that chance that on a ride that may or may not have actually improved my holiday at all. So I chose not to. Vicky was very understanding, because I basically clung on to Vicky the whole rest of the holiday, because obviously when you're feeling dizzy and spaced out, holding on to someone or something that you know is there helps a lot. So I was literally clinging onto Vicky's arm like the whole of the holiday. So for me to be sat on my own while she does a ride, bearing in mind the rides that she wanted to go on, bless her, were like, the waits were massive. So I'd be sat there for like an hour on my own, which to a lot of people doesn't sound like a big deal. I don't go anywhere on my own. I don't do anything on my own, even when I'm home here. So when I'm in a place where I don't feel comfortable, that wasn't the best thing for me, and I wish I could have enjoyed it more. I think that's my thing, is that I'm desperate to go back, but not obviously now. I want to go back when I'm better, when I don't feel dizzy all the time, where I don't feel spaced out all the time, because in terms of my anxiety, I have a pretty good way of dealing with my anxiety, especially when it comes to crowds, especially when it comes to people. I'm pretty good at managing my anxiety. But the thing that threw me was this dizziness and was this spaced out feeling. That was what threw me this holiday. And when I go back, I will be better, and I won't have that aspect to affect my time. But like I said, I'm not saying I didn't have an amazing time, because I really did. And once I got past that stage, I even managed to go and see the illuminations on the castle, which were incredible. But I was so scared to see them, and I thought again I was going to pass out when I was down there. We then managed to solve that problem. We moved to a slightly different area. I was able to stand on the rail. There was no people around us, and because I had a disability pass, I was able to stand in a certain place. But I am so glad that I did watch it. It was disorientating for me. I did get dizzy, but I managed it and I coped with it. Basically filmed this video to do a bit of reality of, I can't control and pick and choose when I have panic attacks, when I have my anxiety, when I get flare-ups. I can't pick and choose these things. My illness decides when it wants to do these certain things. I can't help that. The only thing I can do is try and cope with it when it happens and do what I can to prevent it. Obviously the first day I didn't help myself particularly, but who knows, that may have still happened anyway, whether or not I prevented it. So yeah, basically just some reality and something that you don't always hear about, people having panic attacks and breaking down in the middle of Disneyland Paris. But it happened to me, and it can happen to anyone. And if it has happened to you, then just congratulations for getting through it, basically, and be proud of yourself for getting through it. Don't feel like a failure because you had one there. It's not your fault. These things happen. It's about learning to live with your disability, and that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, to the best of my ability. And yeah, Sorry for the random video in between the Disney vlogs, but it will be back to normal Disney footage next week.